be your facilitator today. Thank you for recording. Yeah, I'll be your facilitator for today. I'll take you through my amazing presentation, which will take around 25 minutes. This class will be recorded, but it will only show my face on it. And after, we'll stop recording for us to open up the space for any Q&As, for you to ask your questions, if you can relate to anything that I've talked about, and also to share any reflections. So let's slide through. Also, Iris, if you can mute yourself, thank you.
Yep. I'm on it.
Okay, so I want to start off by saying that we live in an era where we're so obsessively hand sanitizing and cleaning our teeth and making sure that our hair is super glossy. But giving a deep cleanse inside our body is often neglected. So cleansing for me is a form of self-respect, self-hygiene, making sure that my temple is highly vibrational, vital, and resilient. So to rid myself of parasites has always been a very essential part in my health journey that also holds me accountable to predominantly live in a more alkaline state. So beauty for me is very much from the inside out. So yeah, my name is Eva. I live on Bali. I host many talks on health. I focus on holistic nutrition, a bio-individual approach for my clients. I love doing workshops, especially on fermentation and education about the importance of gut health. I also facilitate online detox retreats. These are done either one-on-one in a private setting or together with Iris. We also offer online parasite retreats, which are done in the comfort of your home. And so we have a lot of people zooming in internationally. Okay, let's dive into this. Can you please slide? So for this session, we'll discuss what are parasites, how do we get them in our bodies? We'll have a look at different parasites in form of images. I'll quickly also touch into breastfeeding and pregnancy, or even with children, if some of you have kids. Then we'll look into the duration, frequency, and yeah, the timing of when to best do a parasite cleanse. What are the best herbs and foods to combine? Detox and drainage pathways is a very important subject. And the last one we'll look into are the most common mistakes. Okay, so what are actually parasites? As long as we have a pulse, as long as we are breathing, we all have parasites. So the hygiene hypothesis states that we have co-evolved with parasites and other pathogenic species. Parasites, virus, bacteria, they have all helped us immensely in the toning of our immune system. So the big question that we're going to unravel today is, if they have been so essential in the health and our immunity and keeping this symbiotic relationship alive, so that means we're scratching their backs, they scratch our backs, they have helped us strengthening our immune system. So the big question is, what causes a parasitic overgrowth? What causes all of these signs and discomforts? Parasites are multicellular. They are larger in scale and they're very hard to get rid of because they have a very complex life cycle. They're very resilient and they can lay up to 1 million eggs per day. So there are different types. You have the pinworm, you have the roundworm, you have the flukes, and they all function very different. So you can imagine if you have so many different types of parasites in different functions, it's very hard for our body to fight them off. Okay, please slide. Yeah, 1 million bloody eggs. I'm not even joking. It's the female parasite that lays eggs in the liver. So yeah, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box and we'll also discuss them later. Okay, so parasites, they can live with us up to 30 years. There is this big misconception that parasites only live in the intestines because parasites love to hide behind heavy metals, behind the deepest tissues of our muscles. And yeah, last few years ago, I had a parasitic infection in my liver. The liver is very important for us women when it comes to hormonal imbalance. So you'll find parasites in everywhere, in every part of your body, including your brain, including in your eyes. And it's very hard to detect them on test results. They're not always reliable. And the other big issue that we have with parasites that I mentioned earlier is that they have a complex life cycle. So here you look into the egg, larvae, adults, and when you're parasite cleansing, you're only actually killing off a certain life cycle of them. They're very cyclical beings. So it's very important that you regularly parasite cleanse. We recommend twice a year, and also change up your parasite protocol in terms of anti-parasitic tincture and food, which we'll go into. Okay, let's give it a slide. So how do we actually get parasites in our body? Most of us do not think of detoxing or strengthening our cells. So we keep on passing genetically weakened tissues generation after generations. So my answer is decades of bad food choices, bad lifestyles is how we got ourselves into this mess. So I have a daughter, and when I go shopping with her, it's very hard to, even from a very young age, get them clean and healthy, because if you look at Kellogg's advertisement, they're directed towards kids. And obviously these are processed foods. So where do we find parasites? Are in foods, either they're uncooked, but you can also find them in fruits and vegetables. You find parasites in our waters that we drink, or even on the rice fields. You find parasites in your pets. So if any of you guys have dogs or cats, this one over here in your animals is a big parasite area, because what do dogs do? They sniff on each other's asses. They are like digging in dirt, right? You also find parasites on doorknobs and on toilet seats. So yeah, you guessed it. We find parasites everywhere, which means you cannot avoid it, but we can help in form of protocols to abstain from parasites. Okay, let's see how that goes. Let's slide. What are the symptoms to know if you have parasites? A big one are definitely cravings, because they will crave processed foods, they will crave sugar. Then a lot of my clients that have parasites are the ones that are very hard to get out of bed in the morning. So they have little energy, they have brain fog and forgetfulness. You'll also see it in form of like skin rashes. Digestive issues is a big one. So think of bloating, gas, diarrhea, farting, just digestive issues, discomfort. And another one, a very visual one, are itchy anus. So any one of you ever scratched your ass in secret? And that happens even during full moon, even more amplified. And I'll describe to you why it's during full moon. But itchy anus is a big one, because the female parasites love to lay eggs, on your bum bum. Okay, next slide. So this is me. And another way on how you can get parasites in your body is through trauma. So trauma is a vibrational match to parasites that allow them to thrive. So you might know that every emotion attracts a form of microbial species. So let's say you're much more prone to illness if you are vibrating very low on depression, anxiety, grief. And here you see me, for example, I went through a very traumatizing breakup in my life where I was vibrating very low. So no motivation, no love, no energy. And I was a very easy host to parasites because I wasn't thriving high. And parasites, unlike virus, they will not kill you. So parasites will not kill you. That is not their goal. They just want to suck your energy. So they want to live with you for as long as possible, but they will not kill you. But they will look for hosts that went to traumatic situations in their life, that are going through anxious or depressed seasons in their life, because they want to keep you very low vibrational. Which means even if you're leading a healthy lifestyle of healthy foods, if your thoughts and emotions are messed up, it could be that you might attract parasites as well. Okay, next slide. Yes, I always say that parasites are like unwanted guests. I always say it's like a hotel that we are, and they do not want to move out because it's warm and it's cozy. We feed them room service, and then they deprive us from very essential nutrients such as vitamin A, B12, iron, and zinc. Zinc is a very important component for the toning of our immune system. You might know that everyone that had COVID, they will always say you need to zinc up, right? So zinc, very important for your immunity. And that's one thing that parasites will really deprive you of. Okay, let's slide through. So the next slides, bear with me, guys. We're going to get very visual. As I mentioned earlier, there are different types of parasites, and how do you identify them? And this one is, for example, a roundworm. As you can see, I wrote down roundworm causes a lot of fatigue and skin issues like acne and eczema. And not very pleasant. And they might get scary when you get them out. And we'll have a look at different types of worms, or different types of pictures. Let's see what else I've prepared. You could slide through. That's a roundworm with a mucoid plaque. So for those that maybe know me a bit longer, I talk a lot about mucoid plaque. What is mucoid plaque? That's a buildup of undigested food or just waste in general that's just lingering in our colon. So you might imagine that if we eat unnatural food, the body will have a hard time digesting and eliminating it. So instead, it forms a slime through it, and you might know that your intestines are very long, that have a lot of little pockets to hide, and that's how mucoid plaque is formed. What happens are that parasites are very attracted to that because the mucoid plaque or mucus in general are the food for parasites. Okay, next slide. That's another picture of a ropeworm, and it gets very messy. So you can imagine when I coach clients, it gets very intimate, it might get very scary, but another big thing that happens is that it gets very liberating because parasites have their own little consciousness. They have their own agenda on, again, keeping you low vibrational, on getting you all of these cravings. And that mucoid plaque that you saw earlier, this causes also a lot of brain fog. So once you release this and you see this in the toilet, it's actually very liberating and you feel very clean. Okay, next slide. Okay, these are cute little roundworms. I mentioned that they cause schizophrenia. Parasites, as I mentioned, have an agenda, and they will send chemical messages in your bloodstream, and they can control your mind and emotion to not feeling yourself again. So that's another big sign of having parasites if you have not felt yourself in a very long time. Okay, one question is, at what point do you start seeing parasites come out? That's a good question. Usually you see them well once we stop eating, because now we're going on a cleanse, right, Ghazi? And that will take a few days until we've eliminated all of the waste that's inside of us. And it's a long process because we need to starve parasites out. So let's quickly talk about this. Let's talk about the duration, time, and frequency. If you decide to do a parasite cleanse, you can time it for the better. So one, for the ladies, definitely have a look at your menstrual cycle. You do not want to be parasite cleansing if you're on your period. Then another big one is the full moon, which we'll get into. And yeah, I think I did a slide on full moon. If we can quickly slide through it, Iris. So there's a connection with the full moon and crazy behaviors in human and animals. You might know that when it's full moon, you hear like dogs barking outside and you can't really sleep. you become very active. So what happens during full moons, our level of melatonin falls. So this is the neurotransmitter which makes us sleepy, and it also controls our immune system. We need good immunity to defend parasites off. So when our melatonin level drops, we have less immune defense against parasites. Remember how I said we get very active during full moon, and that's because of another hormone called the serotonin. And this serotonin hormone increases during full moon. So just as we have receptors of serotonin, so do parasites have receptors. So what does that mean? Parasites during full moon reproduce a lot. They become very active, and hence the word you might know, lunatic. Lunar comes from the moon, and tick from the parasite. So there is a real big connection to parasites in full moon. Okay, next slide. So a parasite cleanse is best done during full moon, since parasites are most vulnerable, and that's when they detach from the intestines of your walls, and that's when they lay and breed eggs. So if you have a chance, you could also schedule your parasite cleanse during full moon, or you can also do it at any other time when your schedule allows. And this, my friends, is a mucoid plaque, what I just described earlier. This is my own mucoid plaque baby, by the way. It gets very crazy, because you think, how the hell do you have that in your body? So this definitely has been very game-changing for me, and that's why I'm so passionate in talking about this subject. Okay, next slide. Yeah, let's talk about drainage and detox pathways. So drainage is equally as important as detoxification. Drainage involves opening up the pathways that allows pathogens and toxins to exit the body, whereas detoxification involves the grabbing and killing of parasites and toxins and to eradicate them. So think of it in this way. You have a toilet, or you have a sink that's clogged up, right? So first, before you can even flush, you need to remove the pipes and clean out the pipes until you flush them out. That's how drainage and detox pathways work in our bodies as well. So in our bodies, we have a lot of detox pathways, one of them being our colon, our liver, our kidneys. Our largest detox pathways are skin and our lungs, for example. So before you even cleanse, it's very important that you open up these detox pathways first. There are common signs to know whether your detox pathways are clogged up. One of them is if you have less than 1 bowel movement per day. One of them is if you have difficulties sweating, if you wake up a lot at night, if your glands are swollen, if you have skin issues. So if you have a lot of eczema and skin rashes. And so for each organ, basically, you have different protocols which you could use. So for example, for the liver, we offer coffee enemas, or there's another detox pathway called our lymphatic system. And here you could go to the sauna, or do infrared, or do dry brushing, or do rebound exercises. So there's a lot of things you could do prior to even cleansing of it. And it's very important. Otherwise, if you are constipated, parasites will not come out, right? So we first need to make sure that your detox pathways are like a free flow highway. Okay, let's slide through. So let's talk about food and herbs for a second. In case you are pregnant, or in case you can't do a full-blown parasite cleanse, you can still use an anti-parasitic diet. What is an anti-parasitic diet? Is everything that comes from nature, everything that's colorful, everything that's alive, because that's not what parasites are attracted to. Remember, parasites are very low vibrational. They crave junk and sugar and pastries and alcohol and all of this. So you could just go on an anti-parasitic diet with some of these herbs. So this one herb you see in the picture, that's a black walnut. Then you can also use garlic, you could use thyme, you could use oregano. So there are some protocols that you could do starting from now on. which does not necessarily have to involve a full-blown parasite cleanse. Okay, next slide. This is one of my last slides, and that's one of the most common mistakes that I see. So one of them is when someone only focuses on parasites, for example. Yes, you are going on a parasite cleanse, but this involves so much more. So we need to focus on your metabolic health, on your environmental toxins. We need to also address your emotions, your nervous system, your traumas. So detox and traumas work very close together. In the courses that Iris and myself, what we offer is a very holistic approach where we go through mindset, through mental health, we go through your emotional and spiritual body. So it's very important not to only focus on parasites. Then, as I mentioned, parasites are very smart. So you need to change up your game. You need to change up your protocols with different parasitic herbs. Otherwise, they'll get used to what you're trying to do. Not taking binders. So in each protocol, we work with binders. That could be, for example, clay. It could be psyllium husk. So in a detox protocol, we work with many different binders to catch parasites. And then a big one is not changing your terrain. So what do I mean with that is, yes, you can go on an amazing detox for a week or for a month. But if you go into your old patterns and habits, into your old lifestyle, you would just attract parasites back in. So it's very important that you overall change your lifestyle into a more predominantly alkaline and high vibrational state. Okay, next slide. Ooh, okay, I think we can stop recording. Wow, I made it through 25 minutes.